September 24th, 1976. Newspaper heiress Patricia Hearst is sentenced to 7 years in prison for taking part in a bank robbery with her kidnappers. She serves nearly 2 years before President Jimmy Carter commutes her sentence. In 2001, President Bill Clinton pardons Hearst. 1896. F. Scott Fitzgerald, author of the Jazz Age novel The Great Gatsby, is born in St. Paul, Minnesota. 1968. 60 Minutes, the pioneering TV news magazine, premieres on CBS, hosted by Mike Wallace and Harry Reasoner. 1957. The Brooklyn Dodgers play their last game in New York, shutting out the Pittsburgh Pirates at Ebbets Field. The following season, the Dodgers move to Los Angeles, while the New York Giants relocate to San Francisco. 1936.
Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me.
Jim Henson, creator of the Muppets, from Kermit the Frog to Sesame Street, is born in Greenville, Mississippi. And 1991.
And that is the fun of the Cat in the Hat.
Theodore Seuss Geisel, the children's writer and cartoonist, better known as Dr. Seuss, dies in La Jolla, California. He was 87. Today in history, September 24th. Camille Bohannon, The Associated Press.
It's the Muppet Show with our special guest star, Mr. John Cleese.
It's time to play the music. It's time to light the light. It's time to meet the Muppets on the Muppet Show tonight.
It's time to put on makeup. It's time to dress up right. It's time to get things started.
Well, they'll never get this started.
It's time to get things started on the most
Sensational, inspirational, celebrational, motivational. This is what we call the Muppet Show.
Gonzo could never hit that note. Neither can I. Welcome back to Studio 26 on this beautiful Tuesday morning. Oh, it's back! That's the wrong one. Let's try this one. There we go. Ah, yes. I could listen to this all day. You know, that would drive you nuts if you had to work on that bridge for 8 hours, and that's all you hear. And that's minus the people talking. Well, anyway, welcome back to Studio 26. As my soundboard is slowly coming back together, and coming up in a few minutes, we'll have the CBS World News Roundup, news of the weird, as well as popular tweets of the day, along with the song of the day before we wrap up the program, and what's on TV tonight. Right now, though, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have market information for you from APM, American Public Radio. So stick around, won't you? I know you will. You're listening to First Cup.
No, what'd she say?
She said whatever.
No, she says that all the time.
What's that?
Hello? I'm on the phone. Mom, I'm on the phone! Hello? I'm on the phone.
Who's this? It's me. I'm on the phone. Mom.
Oh, you're on the phone. All right. Sorry. Anyway.
Who are you talking to? Kelly?
Mom.
All right.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you.
How you doing? My name's Steve. My family's lived in this neighborhood for years. Recently, things got so tight, we had to go to our local food bank for help. I lost a lot of sleep worrying about what the neighbors might think. That is until I saw them there, too. How'd I do, Steve?
A little stiff. You could have done a little better.
What? Come on. You know, I have an Academy Award.
Yeah, but not for playing me.
It's Hunger Action Month, so click share below to pass along this video and play your role in ending hunger.
The UN is checking in on the world's poorest economies. From 8 p.m., I'm David Brancaccio with the global perspective on business and economics. Here in New York, the traffic nightmare is expected to crest today with the extra security and nearly constant motorcades that accompany the United Nations General Assembly meeting. President Obama speaks this morning. In the economic realm, a key item at the UN this week, checking up on goals for poor countries set back in the year 2000. Marketplace's Stacey Vanek-Smith reports.
This week, leaders from around the world will assess progress in reaching the so-called Millennium Development Goals. Charles Kenny is a senior fellow at the Center for Global Development.
The UN General Assembly will discuss these 8 goals and ask how much progress have we been making in areas like poverty and maternal mortality and child health and so on.
The goals are set to be met by 2015, and Kenny says a fair amount of progress has been made.
Look at the first development goal on the number of people worldwide who are living on $1.25 a day.
Back in the 90s, that was around half the population. Now it's about 1 in 5 people. Other goals, like reducing infant mortality, have been slower going, says Johanna Mendelsohn-Foreman of American University.
We've found an analysis of this Millennium Development Goal issue that progress has been great but uneven.
The financial crash took a major toll on meeting the goals, says Foreman. There's still a lot of progress to be made in areas like fighting HIV and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. In New York, I'm Stacey Vanek-Smith for Marketplace.
Checking numbers, stock index futures in the U.S. are mixed at the moment. The FT100 index is up 5 points. Fiat owns more than half of Chrysler. The Italian company wants to buy a bunch more from the second largest Chrysler shareholder, which happens to be the United Auto Workers Union. They're arguing over money, and after a filing yesterday, it's possible the union stake could be sold to the public through an initial public offering. Fiat doesn't like that because it wants more control over Chrysler's destiny. As the floodwaters recede in Colorado, farmers are assessing the damage. Agriculture is a $40 billion industry in that state. While floods can recharge some soil, there can also be contamination. Marketplace's David Weinberg reports.
Dr. Norm Dahlstedt teaches agricultural economics at Colorado State University. He's been touring flooded farms, most of which grow corn and hay to feed livestock. He says even if those crops survive to harvest, it may not be safe to feed them to livestock.
Basically, the wastewaters that were flowing in the river as a result of breached sewage treatment plants. Also, there was some crude oil spillage.
Brian Werner at the Northern Colorado Water Conservancy District is actually less worried about this year's crops than he is about next year's. That's because of damaged irrigation systems.
The farmers' irrigation canals and ditches and head gates where they're totally compromised.
It's unclear just how big the hit to the ag economy will be, but there is a silver lining, says Werner. Soil moisture should be much higher than usual next year. That's great for dryland farmers, those that don't use irrigation. But if irrigation and transportation infrastructure isn't repaired quickly enough, much of that perfectly moist soil will be useless. I'm David Weinberg for Marketplace.
This week, the Chinese government will open the country's first free trade zone in Shanghai. It'll be a little island of deregulation where foreign companies will be able to sell products and services without import duties or taxes. Marketplace China correspondent Rob Schmitz joins us from Shanghai to talk about this. Morning, Rob.
Good morning, David.
So doing business in China for U.S. companies has never been a cakewalk. This is designed to make it a bit easier?
Well, everyone in the foreign business community I've spoken to here is hoping it will, but there is a lot of skepticism because nobody knows the specifics of how exactly this is going to make selling your products easier in China. For example, we're hearing that China may finally end a 13-year ban on video gaming consoles by allowing them to be made and sold inside this zone. This ban has really hurt business for the U.S. gaming industry. I spoke to lawyer Greg Pilorowski about this. He represents many of these companies in China, and he wasn't too enthusiastic about the free trade zone at all.
First, it's not a complete removal of the ban. But the more important thing to put this in context boils down to one word: piracy.
So the message, at least from this industry, is thanks for the new free trade zone, China, but you still need to fix the same problems you've always had in order for us to get a fair shot.
You mentioned that China has a 13-year ban on video gaming consoles. Pourquoi?
Yes. Well, the official reason is that video games are morally corrupt. However, the real reason industry insiders think is because they are punishing the U.S. video gaming industry because they are so dominating and they don't want that competition.
Now, another promised feature I see in this Shanghai Free Trade Zone is that it's supposed to allow for freer trade of the renminbi, the currency.
Right. This, too, hasn't fully been explained, but the government has always controlled the value of the renminbi, allowing it to appreciate slowly in recent years. And it appears that China may use this zone to give the global financial markets a go at determining the value of the renminbi, which is something U.S. lawmakers have been pushing China to do for years because they believe it would allow U.S. products to fairly compete with Chinese products. But I wouldn't hold my breath on this detail because China has always been very, very cautious about loosening its control on its currency for fear that it would have a broad negative impact on its economy.
Marketplace's China Bureau Chief Rob Schmitz in Shanghai. Thank you.
Thanks, David.
And another idea from California that could come to a computer near you. Governor Jerry Brown has just signed a law to let young people erase their old posts from the internet beginning in 2015. Already some people, including victims of domestic violence, can get old digital info deleted, and Twitter and Facebook already let you do that. Once you become an adult, California's law won't apply, even to stuff you posted as a kid. I'm David Brancaccio with the Marketplace Morning Report. From APM, American Public Media.
I always wait a week to get my hands on the latest DVD releases. So I got knocked up last night.
And boom goes the dynamite.
I'm Hugh Downs. Good night.
That's what she said.
Kenya mall crisis.
This siege isn't over.
President Obama at the UN.
Iran, Syria, and other world trouble spots on the president's agenda.
Healthcare law loophole.
Making coverage too expensive for some families.
Good morning. I'm Steve Kathan with the CBS World News Roundup. On day 4 of the standoff at a mall in Nairobi, Kenya, clarity has yet to emerge from all the smoke and gunfire. The terror group Al-Shabaab denies a Kenyan claim that government troops control the mall. And it also denied this assertion by Kenya's foreign minister about the makeup of the attackers on the PBS NewsHour.
2 or 3 Americans, and I think so far I've heard of 1 rich woman. The Americans are young men, between maybe 18 and 19. Somali origin or Arab origin.
CBS's Charlie D'Agata is outside the mall.
When it comes to the death toll, it depends on who you're listening to. The Kenyan authorities say the death toll is what it is. 62 people have died. They don't expect that death toll to climb any further because they've retrieved the rest of the hostages inside the mall. However, if you listen to Al-Shabaab, the group that are behind this attack, they say that the inside of the mall is strewn with bodies that haven't been recovered yet, and they still have hostages.
And the government has said most hostages have been freed or released. Here at home, a former FBI agent has agreed to plead guilty to leaking information about a U.S. intelligence operation in Yemen. Donald Sockleben was tracked when the government got its hands on Associated Press telephone records.
They were surprised to find out that the same agent was also under arrest in a child pornography case. They already had his computer because of that case. They went back through the computer. Between the computer and the telephone records, they were able to put together that he was the source.
CBS's John Miller is a former FBI official. A plea agreement for both crimes calls for more than 11 years in prison. Iran has tested the will of diplomats from around the world with its burgeoning nuclear program. Now, amid signs Tehran is willing to talk, the question is, what will we hear today from President Obama at the UN? We're live in New York with White House correspondent Peter Mayer.
And, Steve, this morning a White House official tells us the president will use his speech to the UN about 2 hours from now to outline the path forward on dealing with Iran's nuclear ambitions. The door is open for Mr. Obama to possibly meet here with the Iranian President Rouhani. On CBS this morning, former President Clinton said a new outreach is worth a try.
Clearly there's a thaw going on, and they're rethinking their positions, and we ought to do what we can to explore it.
In what amounts to the annual State of the World address, President Obama will step up the call for Syria to give up its chemical weapons, and Steve, he'll also condemn that terror attack in Kenya.
Well, as the end of the month closes in, so does a federal budget deadline. CBS's Bob Fuss is on Capitol Hill.
Texas Senator Ted Cruz and a few of his allies want to join the fight House Republicans started to make government funding dependent on ending Obamacare. But with even a number of prominent Republican senators opposing the strategy, all he can do is delay action with filibusters. If he uses all the procedural delays he can, that would push a Senate vote until Sunday, leaving the House only one day to try to avoid a shutdown.
The health care reform